bought the house for $12,000 cash. That wasn't a typo. The bank wouldn't finance it, the neighbors wouldn't talk about it, and the real estate agent seemed relieved the moment I signed the papers. From the outside, the place looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The roof sagged slightly in the middle, vines had swallowed most of the front porch, and every window was coated with a thick layer of dust and pollen. But the structure was solid, and I was desperate for a fresh start. The first day was exactly what I expected. Rotted floorboards, peeling wallpaper, dead insects in the sinks, and the smell of old wood trapped in a house that hadn't been opened in years. Then I reached the second floor. At the end of the hallway was a single locked door. Unlike the rest of the house, this door looked almost new. The paint wasn't faded, the brass handle was polished, and the wood had none of the cracks or water damage I'd seen everywhere else. It looked like someone had installed it recently. I tried the knob. Locked. I checked the key ring the agent had given me. There were keys for the front door, back door, basement, and even an old shed in the yard. Nothing fit this door. That was when I noticed the floor around it. The dust covering the hallway was undisturbed, except for a narrow path leading directly to the locked room, as if someone had walked there not very long ago. I knelt down and touched the floor. The footprints were clean, not old, and they were leading into the room, but there were no footprints coming back out. I stayed crouched in the hallway longer than I'd like to admit, staring at those footprints. They were faint, but unmistakable. Clean shoe prints cutting through the dust like someone had walked there within the last day or two. The strange part wasn't that they existed. It was that they ended at the locked door. No return prints. No smudges. Nothing. I stood up slowly and looked around the hallway again, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe the previous owner had cleaned the area before moving out. Maybe the dust had shifted when I opened the windows downstairs. But the rest of the hallway was untouched. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. The flash lit up the corridor for a split second, and I noticed something I'd missed before. A thin line of fresh caulk around the doorframe. The caulk was bright white, completely different from the yellowed trim throughout the rest of the house. Someone hadn't just installed this door recently. They had sealed it. I knocked once. The sound was dull and heavy, as if the room behind it was insulated. I knocked again, harder this time. Silence. Then, very faintly, a single tap answered from the other side. I froze. It was so soft that I almost convinced myself it had come from the house settling. I waited, holding my breath. Nothing. I tried the knob one more time, putting my shoulder against the door and twisting harder. It didn't budge. That was when I noticed the temperature. The hallway was warm from the afternoon sun, but the metal doorknob was ice cold. Cold enough that it made my fingers ache. I stepped back and looked at the door from top to bottom. No keyhole scratches, no chipped paint, no signs of forced entry. It looked maintained, used, and suddenly the abandoned house didn't feel abandoned anymore. I went downstairs and searched every drawer, cabinet, and toolbox I could find, hoping I'd missed a key. After nearly 20 minutes, I found an old ring of rusted keys in the kitchen. None of them fit. The last key wouldn't even go in halfway. I was about to give up when I heard it. A soft metallic sound from upstairs. Click, like a lock being turned. I looked toward the ceiling. The house went completely still. Then came a second sound. Creak, a floorboard, directly above me. I grabbed the flashlight from my tool bag and started up the stairs as quietly as I could. Every step groaned under my weight, and with each one my heartbeat got louder. When I reached the second floor landing, the hallway was empty. The locked door was still closed, but the footprints had changed. A new print had appeared in the dust. It was facing the opposite direction now, away from the door, as if someone had opened it, stepped out into the hallway, and then vanished. I raised the flashlight beam toward the far end of the corridor. That's when I saw the bathroom mirror. Someone had written a message on the dusty glass with a finger. "You shouldn't have bought this house." And while I was staring at the words, the locked doorknob behind me began to turn very, very slowly. The doorknob turned with a slow metallic scrape. I spun around so fast the flashlight beam shook across the walls. The locked door was still closed, but the handle was moving steadily downward, as if someone on the other side was carefully testing it. My mouth went dry. The message on the bathroom mirror was still visible behind me. "You shouldn't have bought this house." The knob stopped turning. For one long second, nothing happened. Then came the sound of a deadbolt sliding open. Chunk. I took an involuntary step backward. The door moved inward about an inch. A thin line of darkness appeared between the frame and the door, and a cold draft spilled into the hallway. It smelled nothing like the rest of the house. The air carried a faint scent of disinfectant and something metallic, like a hospital room that had been closed for too long. I should have run downstairs. Instead, I pushed the door open with the tip of the flashlight. The room beyond was impossible. Every other room in the house looked abandoned for decades, but this one was spotless. The walls had been painted a clean matte gray. The floor was covered with new dark carpeting, and a modern ceiling light glowed softly overhead. It looked like it had been renovated last month. In the center of the room sat a single wooden desk. Nothing else. No bed, no closet, no personal belongings, just the desk. And on top of it was a manila folder with my name written across the front in black marker. Ethan Carter. My stomach tightened. I walked in slowly, every instinct telling me I was making a mistake. The temperature dropped the moment I crossed the threshold, and I noticed something else. The room had no windows. From the outside, this wall faced the backyard. There should have been a window. I turned back toward the hallway. The door was still open behind me, but the hallway looked darker now, as if the light from the rest of the house couldn't quite reach this room. I picked up the folder. Inside were documents. The first page was a copy of the property deed with my signature on it. The second page was a photograph of me standing outside the house yesterday morning, before I had even met the real estate agent. I stared at it, my pulse hammering. Someone had been watching me before I bought the house. The next page was worse. It was a typed schedule. Day 1, finds the locked room. Day 2, hears footsteps in the walls. Day 3, discovers the basement entrance. Day 4, tries to leave. I flipped through the remaining pages frantically. The final line read, Day 5, the house keeps him. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned instantly, flashlight raised. The hallway was empty, but the bathroom mirror message had changed. The dust had been wiped clean, and new words were written across the glass. You opened it. A sudden slam shook the room. The door behind me had closed by itself. I lunged for the handle and yanked it. Locked. From the outside. My breathing became shallow as I rattled the knob harder. Hello? Is someone there? Silence. Then, from somewhere above the ceiling, I heard slow footsteps moving directly over the room. One step. Another. They stopped above me. A faint scratching sound followed, like fingernails dragging across wood. I backed away from the door and swept the flashlight across the room again. That's when I noticed the carpet. Near the back wall, the fibers were slightly darker, as if something heavy had been dragged across them repeatedly. I moved the desk aside. Underneath it was a square outline cut into the carpet, a hidden hatch, and as I crouched down beside it, a voice spoke from beneath the floor. A man's voice, weak, desperate. Please. A long pause. Then the voice whispered my name. Ethan. Don't let them know you can hear me. And before I could react, something heavy moved directly under the hatch, followed by a single terrified scream that was cut off in the middle. The room fell silent. Then the ceiling light flickered once and went out. Darkness swallowed the room the instant the ceiling light died. For a second, I couldn't tell if I was breathing. Then my flashlight beam flickered back on, cutting through the black and landing directly on the hidden hatch beneath the carpet. The square outline looked even more obvious now, and the scream I'd heard from below still echoed in my head. Someone was down there, or had been. I backed away from the hatch and tried the door again, throwing my shoulder against it this time. It didn't move. Hey! I shouted. Open the door. No answer. Only silence. Then came a soft sound from beneath the floor. A knock. 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. The same pattern answered from somewhere inside the wall behind me. Tap. My flashlight snapped toward the wall. Nothing. The room looked empty, but I could feel something listening. The knocking came again from below the hatch. This time a voice followed it, barely audible. "Ethan, please." It was the same man's voice I'd heard before, but weaker now, as if he were speaking through layers of dirt and concrete. I moved closer to the hatch despite every instinct telling me not to. "How do you know my name?" A long pause. Then, "Because I was where you are now." A cold wave passed through me. "What does that mean?" The voice coughed, and I heard something scrape across the floor beneath him. "They bring people here. The room changes for each owner." My grip tightened on the flashlight. "Who brings people here?" The answer came immediately. "The house." The temperature dropped another few degrees. I crouched beside the hatch and ran my fingers along the edge. There was a small recessed handle hidden beneath the carpet fibers, almost impossible to notice unless you knew it was there. The voice became urgent. "Don't open it all the way." "Why?" "Because they'll know you found the lower level." Before I could ask another question, footsteps sounded above the ceiling again. Slow, heavy. They crossed directly over my head and stopped. I looked up instinctively. A faint bulge appeared in the plaster ceiling, as if someone were standing in a room above and pressing down with both feet. Then dust began to fall. The voice below whispered, "He's checking if you're alone." My heart started pounding again. "Who is he?" No answer, only breathing. I took hold of the hidden handle and pulled gently. The hatch lifted about an inch before stopping against a chain attached underneath. A rush of cold air hit my face, carrying the smell of damp earth and something rotten. I lowered the flashlight into the gap. Stone steps descended into darkness. Not wooden basement stairs. Old stone steps, worn smooth in the middle as if thousands of people had used them over a very long time. And at the bottom of the beam, I saw a hand gripping the chain from below. A human hand. Thin, dirty, shaking. "Please," the voice whispered. "Don't leave me down here." I swallowed hard. "What's your name?" Another pause. Then the hand tightened around the chain. "Daniel." The name hit me strangely, like I'd heard it before in a dream. "Daniel, how long have you been down there?" "I don't know anymore." The clock stopped working after a while. Something moved behind him in the darkness. My flashlight caught only a blur, but Daniel saw it too. His eyes widened in terror. "Close it," he whispered. The chain suddenly jerked downward. Daniel was yanked backward into the darkness so violently that his fingers slipped off the chain. His scream echoed up the staircase. "Close it!" I slammed the hatch shut just as something hit it from below. Boom! The entire floor shook. Another impact followed immediately. Boom! The chain rattled violently beneath the hatch. I stumbled backward, staring at the carpeted square. Then I heard a new sound. Not from below. From the other side of the locked door. A key was being inserted into the lock. I backed away slowly as the mechanism turned with a soft metallic click. The door opened inward. A woman stood in the hallway. She was probably in her early 40s, dressed in a dark coat, with rainwater dripping from her sleeves. She looked directly at me, then at the move desk, then at the hatch. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she asked in a calm, almost tired voice, "Did he tell you his name was Daniel?" The woman stood in the doorway, rainwater dripping from the ends of her dark coat. She looked completely out of place in that spotless room, like someone who had stepped into the wrong reality by accident. Her eyes moved from my face to the desk I had shoved aside, then settled on the hidden hatch beneath the carpet. "Did he tell you his name was Daniel?" My throat went dry. "How do you know that?" Instead of answering, she stepped inside and quietly closed the door behind her. The lock clicked. The sound made my stomach tighten. "Who are you?" I asked, backing away from the hatch. "My name is Evelyn," she said. "And if Daniel spoke to you, it means he's still alive." Another violent impact shook the floor beneath us. Boom! The hatch jumped against the carpet. Evelyn didn't even flinch. "How are you so calm?" I asked. "Because I've heard that sound before." She knelt beside the hatch and pressed her palm against the carpet. For a few seconds, she stayed perfectly still, as if listening through the floor. Then she whispered, "He's farther down now." "What's down there?" Evelyn looked up at me, and for the first time I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "A level that isn't part of the house." The answer sounded insane, but after everything I'd seen, I couldn't dismiss it anymore. "You knew about this place before I bought it, didn't you?" She stood slowly. "Yes." "Then why was it sold?" Her expression hardened. "Because people keep trying to get rid of it." Rain tapped against the roof somewhere above us, and I realized this was the first normal sound I'd heard in several minutes. Evelyn walked to the desk and opened one of the drawers. Inside were dozens of folders, all labeled with different names. She pulled one out and handed it to me. "Martin Reyes." Inside was a photograph of a man standing in this exact room, looking terrified. The next page was a missing person report dated 2018. Another folder. Sarah Whitmore, 2021. Another missing person report. Then another, and another. Every folder belonged to someone who had bought the house. Every one of them had disappeared. I looked up at Evelyn. "How many?" She didn't answer immediately. 12 confirmed. Cold knot formed in my stomach. "And Daniel?" "He was number 13. I remembered the desperate voice from beneath the hatch. "Please don't leave me down here." "What happened to him?" Evelyn glanced toward the floor. "He found the lower staircase and went down before anyone could stop him." Another thud came from below, softer this time, followed by a faint scraping sound moving deeper underground. "He shouldn't still be alive," she whispered. That sentence hit me harder than anything else. "You said still." Evelyn looked at me carefully, as if deciding whether I could handle the truth. "Daniel disappeared 3 years ago." My legs felt weak. "That's impossible. I just talked to him." "I know." The room seemed to get colder. Evelyn reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small brass key attached to a faded tag. "Room 14. I frowned. "What's room 14? She looked directly at me. "The room you're standing in." I looked around again. The spotless walls, the new carpet, the missing window. It had never been part of the original house. Evelyn continued quietly. "This room appears for whoever owns the property. The door changes, the furniture changes, even the layout changes sometimes. But the number stays the same." "Why 14? "Because there were 13 owners before you." The implication hit me immediately. I was next. The floor beneath the hatch creaked. Then, very clearly, Daniel's voice drifted up from below. "She's lying." Evelyn's face went pale. I stared at the hatch. "Don't trust her, Ethan," Daniel whispered. "She's the one who locked me down here." My flashlight shook in my hand. Evelyn stepped back from the hatch. "Don't listen to him. Ask her why she has the key." I looked at the brass key in her hand. Evelyn's fingers tightened around it. "Ask her why she keeps coming back after every owner disappears." "Evelyn," I said slowly, "what is the key for?" She opened her mouth to answer, and the hatch suddenly burst upward. The chain snapped with a metallic crack. A blast of freezing air filled the room. For one terrifying second, all I could see was darkness rushing up the staircase. Then a pale hand grabbed the edge of the opening. Daniel pulled himself halfway out of the hatch. He looked nothing like the voice I had imagined. His skin was gray with dirt. His clothes were torn, and his eyes were bloodshot from exhaustion. But the moment he saw Evelyn, he screamed, "Get away from her!" Evelyn raised the brass key instinctively. Daniel's expression turned from relief to absolute terror, and from somewhere deep below him, far down the hidden staircase, I heard dozens of footsteps starting to climb upward together. Daniel's fingers dug into the edge of the hatch as he hauled himself farther out of the opening. He looked like he'd been underground for years. Dirt was packed beneath his nails. His clothes were soaked with something dark, and his breathing came in sharp, painful gasps. But his eyes were fixed entirely on Evelyn. "Get away from her!" Evelyn took a step backward, still holding the brass key. "You don't understand what you're seeing," she said, her voice suddenly tense. Daniel laughed. A broken, exhausted sound. No, Ethan, you don't understand. The footsteps below grew louder. Not one person, not two, dozens. The sound echoed up the stone staircase in uneven waves, as if a crowd was climbing toward us from deep underground. I aimed the flashlight into the hatch. The beam disappeared into darkness for several seconds before it finally caught movement. Pale faces. For a split second, I saw multiple people packed together on the stairs far below. Men and women in torn clothing, all climbing upward in complete silence. Then the light flickered and they were gone. I jerked the flashlight back. What the hell was that? Daniel pulled himself fully onto the floor and slammed the hatch halfway closed with shaking hands. They're waking up. Evelyn immediately moved toward him. You shouldn't have come up. Daniel scrambled away from her, pressing himself against the wall. Don't touch me. His reaction was so genuine that I instinctively stepped between them. Stop, both of you. Daniel pointed at the brass key in Evelyn's hand. She uses that to lock the lower doors. Evelyn's expression hardened. I use it to keep them from opening. Then why was I trapped down there? Because you went past the red door, she snapped. The room went silent. Daniel looked at me. You saw it. I shook my head. I only saw the staircase. Daniel swallowed hard. Good. The footsteps below were much closer now. I could hear individual steps, the scrape of shoes on stone, and something else mixed in with them. A wet, dragging sound that made my stomach turn. Evelyn knelt beside the hatch and listened for a moment. We have maybe 2 minutes. 2 minutes before what? I asked. Before they reach room 14. Daniel grabbed my arm. Ethan, listen to me. This room is not a safe room. It's a checkpoint. My pulse quickened. Checkpoint for what? For the thing that chooses the next owner. The words hit me like ice water. Evelyn stood up sharply. Don't fill his head with that nonsense. Nonsense, Daniel shouted. You've seen it. For the first time, Evelyn didn't deny it. The silence was answer enough. Another thud came from below the hatch, followed by a low murmur. Many voices speaking at once, too faint to understand. Daniel lowered his voice. 3 years ago, I bought this house. I found the locked room just like you. Evelyn showed up and told me she was trying to help. Evelyn looked away. She gave me the same warning about the staircase. But she never told me the truth. What truth? Daniel's eyes were hollow. That every owner eventually hears their own voice calling from below. A cold wave passed through me. What? It starts with whispers. Then you hear yourself speaking from the dark. The longer you stay in the house, the more it sounds like you. Evelyn finally spoke very quietly. He's right about that part. I stared at her. You knew? Yes. Then tell me what's down there. She hesitated, and that hesitation terrified me more than any answer. Finally, she whispered, I don't know what it is. The footsteps stopped directly beneath the hatch. Complete silence. Then a voice drifted up from below. My voice. Ethan. Every hair on my body stood up. It sounded perfect. Not distorted, not ghostly. Exactly the way I heard myself when listening to a recording. Don't let them scare you. Daniel went rigid. Evelyn closed her eyes. My voice continued from the darkness. You already know which one is lying. The hatch began to rise slowly from underneath. Daniel threw his weight onto it immediately. Help me! I rushed forward and pushed down beside him. The wood vibrated under our hands as something below applied steady pressure. Not pounding, not forcing, just lifting, as if it were strong enough that it didn't need to hurry. Evelyn looked toward the door of room 14. Her face lost all color. Ethan! I looked up. The door behind us was standing open. I was certain she had closed it earlier. Beyond the doorway, the hallway was dark, and at the far end of the hall, a man was standing there. He was my height, my build, wearing my clothes, and when he stepped into the light, I saw my own face looking back at me. The copy smiled. You found the wrong staircase. Then it started walking toward room 14, and beneath our hands, the hatch stopped resisting. For one horrible second, Everything became still. Then something on the other side whispered directly through the wood. "Open it, Ethan." The copy walked down the hallway wearing my face. Every step was calm, unhurried, like it already knew there was nowhere left for me to run. The light from room 14 caught the side of its face, and I could see details that made my stomach twist. The small scar on my chin, the crease above my left eyebrow, even the way my shoulders leaned slightly to one side when I walked. It wasn't an imitation anymore. It was becoming me. Behind me, the hatch whispered again. "Open it, Ethan." The voice sounded gentle now, almost comforting. Daniel was still pressing his weight against the hatch, his arms shaking with exhaustion. "Don't listen to it," he hissed. The copy stopped in the doorway of room 14 and looked directly at me. "You already know I'm the real one." Evelyn stepped between us, raising the brass key like a weapon. "Stay back," the copy smiled. "You've been saying that for 30 years. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Evelyn's face. "You know her," I whispered. The copy tilted its head. "I know all of you." It took another step into the room. The air changed immediately. The lights dimmed, and the walls of room 14 seemed to stretch outward, the corners becoming deeper and darker than they should have been. Daniel suddenly looked at me with panic. "Ethan, the key. Take the key from her." Evelyn turned sharply. "No." "Why?" I demanded. She tightened her grip on the brass key. "Because if he gets it, he can open the red door." The copy laughed softly. "He's going to open it anyway." A heavy impact shook the hatch beneath us. The wood bowed upward between Daniel's hands, and a thin black liquid began seeping through the cracks. It wasn't water. It moved like oil, crawling across the floor in thin tendrils. Daniel recoiled. "They're reaching through." The black liquid spread toward the copy's feet, and instead of avoiding it, the copy stepped into it. The tendrils wrapped around its shoes and climbed up its legs like living shadows. Its eyes turned completely black. "The lower level has chosen." My pulse hammered. "What does that mean?" The copy looked at me with my own face. "It means you're the first owner who can hear both sides." Evelyn grabbed my arm. "Don't answer any questions it asks you." The copy ignored her. "Ethan, when you touched the folder on the desk, did you feel the paper was warm?" I froze. It had been warm. I hadn't told anyone that. The copy's smile widened. "That folder was written for you before you bought the house." Daniel looked sick. "It's reading your memories." The hatch slammed upward again. This time a hand burst through the gap between the boards. It was pale, swollen, and covered in dirt. Another hand appeared beside it. Then another. Multiple people were trying to force their way up from below. Daniel threw himself against the hatch with a shout. "Help me hold it." I moved instinctively, but the copy spoke again. "Ask Daniel why he went downstairs the first time." Daniel's face changed. "Don't. Why did you go down there?" I asked. He looked away. The copy answered for him. "Because he heard his wife calling for help." Daniel's eyes snapped shut. "She'd been dead for 6 months," the copy continued. But the staircase knew her voice. A cold silence filled the room. I looked at Daniel. "It used your wife's voice?" He nodded once, barely able to speak. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. Then I heard her crying from below the red door. Evelyn whispered, "It always starts with someone you love." The copy turned toward me. "Who would you follow, Ethan?" I didn't answer. The black liquid on the floor suddenly surged toward me, stopping just short of my boots. Shapes moved inside it, faces forming and dissolving in the darkness. Then I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. My father. He had died of a heart attack when I was 22. "Son." The word hit me like a physical blow. "I'm down here." My knees nearly gave out. Evelyn grabbed my shoulder hard enough to hurt. "That is not your father." But the voice continued, trembling with emotion. "Ethan, please. It's cold." Daniel looked horrified. "That's how it gets you." The copy watched my face carefully. "You know that voice," it said softly. "You know I don't have to fake it anymore." The hatch beneath us cracked down the middle. A blast of freezing air erupted from below, carrying the smell of wet earth and decay. Through the widening gap, I saw stone steps descending into darkness, and far below, illuminated by a faint red glow, stood a massive door covered in rusted iron plates. The red door, it was slowly opening. Something enormous moved behind it. The copy looked down into the darkness and whispered with reverence, "He's finally awake." Then it raised its black eyes to me. "And he wants to know if you're coming downstairs willingly." The red door was opening. Far below the hatch, beyond the stone staircase, the massive iron door groaned inward another few inches. Rust flaked from its surface and drifted into the darkness like ash, and a deep red glow spilled through the widening gap. Something moved behind it. Not a person. The shape was far too large. I only saw part of it. An enormous gray shoulder and the outline of a head that seemed to scrape the ceiling of whatever chamber lay beyond the door. The copy looked down at it with something that resembled admiration. He waited a long time for someone who could hear him clearly. My father's voice rose from the staircase again. "Ethan, please, help me." Every instinct in my body screamed to answer. Evelyn grabbed my wrist before I could move. "That is not him." "But it sounds exactly like him." "I know." Her voice shook. "That's how it learns." The black liquid on the floor began creeping toward the hatch, flowing around Daniel's knees as he struggled to keep the broken boards closed. "There are too many of them," he shouted. Another pale hand forced its way through the crack, followed by part of a face. The skin was gray and swollen, and its mouth hung open as if it had forgotten how to breathe. Then I recognized it. The man from the Martin Reyes folder. The missing owner from 2018. His clouded eyes turned toward me, and he whispered through the gap, "Don't let him see your shadow." Daniel slammed the hatch down again, crushing the hand back into the darkness. My heart was hammering. "They're still alive?" Evelyn looked sick. "I don't know what they are anymore." The copy took another step closer. The shadows in room 14 bent toward it, stretching across the walls like they were being pulled by gravity. "You're asking the wrong question," it said softly. "The real question is why they're trying so hard to keep you away from the door." My father's voice came again, weaker now. "Ethan, it hurts." I squeezed my eyes shut. For a split second, I remembered the hospital room where I'd watched him die. The machines, the smell of antiseptic, the last time he'd said my name. When I opened my eyes, the copy was watching me carefully. "You remember that night, don't you?" It knew, not because someone had told it, because it had been inside my memories. Evelyn stepped in front of me. "Stop talking to him." The copy ignored her. "If I can remember your father's final words, what makes you think he can't?" The room seemed to tilt around me. Daniel looked up from the hatch, panic in his eyes. "Ethan, listen to me. Once you answer the voice from below, it marks you." "What does that mean?" "It means the house stops needing the room." A cold silence followed. The copy smiled. "Tell him the rest." Daniel swallowed hard. "It can follow you outside." That hit me harder than anything else. Up until now, part of me had been holding on to the idea that I could still escape, that if I got out of the house, this nightmare would end. The copy saw the realization on my face. There is no outside for marked owners. The red glow from below suddenly brightened. The iron door had opened wide enough that I could see a massive stone chamber beyond it. Rows of pillars disappeared into darkness, and chains hung from the ceiling, swaying even though there was no wind. And in the center of that chamber, something was standing up. The ceiling light of room 14 flickered violently. The future room beyond the doorway began to change. The frozen sunset dissolved into darkness, and the walls started cracking as if the entire future was collapsing. Future me stumbled backward into the room. "It's happening too early," he whispered. The copy looked genuinely pleased. "All the paths are connecting." The floor beneath the hatch split open with a loud crack. A section of wood collapsed inward, revealing the upper part of the stone staircase. Cold air roared into room 14, carrying whispers from dozens of voices below. They were all saying the same thing. "Come down. over and over, faster each time. Come down, come down, come down. Then my father's voice cut through all the others. Clear, close, right behind me. Ethan. I turned instantly. No one was there. But on the wall beside the desk, a new message had appeared, written in fresh black letters. The door only opens for family. My blood ran cold. I looked at Evelyn. She was staring at the message in horror. What does that mean? Her lips parted, but for a moment no sound came out. Then she whispered the one thing I never expected to hear. Your father was here before you. For a few seconds, I genuinely forgot how to breathe. Your father was here before you. Evelyn's voice sounded distant, like I was hearing it through water. That's not possible, I said automatically. He died when I was 22. Evelyn didn't look away. I know when he died. The words hit me hard. How would you know that? She glanced toward the staircase exposed beneath the broken hatch, then back at me. Because I met him 6 months before it happened. The room tilted around me. The copy was smiling now, watching my reaction with unsettling patience. You're starting to understand why the house chose you. I ignored it. What do you mean you met him? Evelyn took a slow breath, as if she'd been dreading this moment for years. Your father came to this house in the winter of 2003. He wasn't the owner. He was hired to inspect structural damage after a flood. My mind raced. My father had worked as a contractor for several years after leaving the military. I remembered him taking emergency repair jobs all over the state. He found the staircase, Evelyn continued. He heard voices from below, just like Daniel did. A cold pressure built in my chest. What happened? He left before sunset. The copy tilted its head. Tell him what happened after he left. Evelyn's expression darkened. For months afterward, he kept coming back. The words landed like a punch. No, I whispered. He never mentioned this house. He wouldn't have, she said quietly. Most people who hear the voices think they're losing their minds. My father's voice drifted up from the staircase again. Ethan, I tried to stay away. The sound of it almost broke me. It wasn't just the voice. It carried the same exhaustion I remembered hearing during the last year of his life, when he'd been sleeping badly and waking up in the middle of the night. I looked at Evelyn. Did he go downstairs? She nodded once. Only once. Daniel stared at her. You never told me that. I never wanted anyone to know. Know what? I demanded. Evelyn looked toward the red glow below. He opened the red door. The temperature in room 14 seemed to drop 10 degrees. The copy's smile widened. And he came back. That's impossible, Daniel whispered. Evelyn shook her head slowly. That's why this house is different from the others. I felt sick. What happened to him after that? He said something was standing behind the door, and it spoke to him in a voice he recognized. My father's voice whispered from below. My mother's voice. I closed my eyes. My grandmother had died before I was born. The copy stepped closer, black shadows curling around its feet. It always uses family first. Evelyn continued, forcing herself to speak. After he came back up, he begged me to seal the staircase permanently. He said if he ever returned to the house, I was supposed to stop him from going downstairs again. A memory surfaced suddenly. My father sitting alone in the garage late at night, staring at nothing while a radio played softly. When I'd asked if he was okay, he'd said, "Some places leave a door open inside your head." I had never understood what he meant. Until now, the hatch below us groaned. More pale faces were visible through the gap now, crowded together on the staircase. Some were whispering, others simply stared upward with empty eyes. Then one of them spoke. A woman's voice. Tom. Evelyn went completely still. The copy looked at her. She remembers you. Evelyn's hands began to shake. Don't. The voice below came again, clearer this time. Tom, you promised you'd come back for me. Daniel looked between us, confused. Who's Tom? Evelyn closed her eyes. That was my husband's name. Silence. The The copy spoke softly. He went through the red door with her in 1994. Evelyn opened her eyes, and I saw tears there for the first time. He told me he could hear our daughter calling from below. My stomach dropped. The little girl. Evelyn nodded. She was 6 when she died. The room went dead quiet. The child we'd been seeing on the staircase, the girl in the white dress, wasn't some random ghost. It was Evelyn's daughter. The little girl's voice floated up from below, sweet and innocent. "Mom!" Evelyn made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. "Mom, I found Dad." The copy watched her carefully. "You've been guarding this house for 30 years because you're still hoping they're really down there." Evelyn couldn't answer, because it was true. The red glow suddenly flared brighter, flooding the staircase with crimson light. And for the first time, I saw the figure behind the red door clearly enough to make out its shape. It was enormous, at least 10 feet tall, with long gray arms and a body wrapped in something that looked like black chains. But the worst part was its face. It had no features at all, just a smooth gray surface where a face should have been, until it looked up at me. Then features began to appear. Eyes, a mouth, a jawline, slowly, like wet clay being shaped by invisible hands. It was building a face, my father's face. The thing behind the red door smiled with my father's mouth and spoke in his voice. "Come downstairs, son." The thing behind the red door smiled with my father's face. "Come downstairs, son." My legs locked in place. The voice was perfect. The same rough warmth I remembered from childhood. The same slight pause before he said son. For one impossible second, every memory I had of him came rushing back. Fishing trips, late-night drives, the smell of sawdust on his clothes when he came home from work. And that was exactly why it was terrifying. Because my father was dead. The copy watched me carefully, as if this was the moment it had been waiting for. "You've wanted one more conversation with him for 14 years. I didn't answer. The thing below took a slow step forward, chains dragging across the stone floor with a sound that echoed up the staircase. "I tried to protect you," it said in my father's voice. "That's why I came back to this house." Evelyn suddenly shouted, "Don't listen to him." The force in her voice snapped me out of it for a moment. She stepped toward the staircase, tears running down her face. "That is not your father. It's the same thing that used my daughter's voice." The little girl appeared halfway down the stairs, illuminated by the red glow. She looked exactly the same as before, white dress, dark hair, head tilted slightly to one side. But now she was holding the hand of a man standing behind her. A man with Evelyn's husband's face. "Mom," the girl said softly. "Dad came back for us." Evelyn made a broken sound in the back of her throat and nearly stepped toward them before catching herself. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Evelyn, look at their shadows." I aimed the flashlight down the staircase. The girl and the man had no shadows at all. Neither did the thing behind the red door. My father's face turned toward Daniel. The smile disappeared. "You stayed down there too long," it said coldly. Daniel flinched like he'd been slapped. Then the face began to change. The features softened, stretched, and rearranged themselves until the thing was wearing Daniel's face instead. The real Daniel went pale. "It's learning from us in real time." The copy nodded. "Every voice it hears becomes another mask." The hatch beneath us shuddered violently. More hands were forcing their way through the gap, clawing at the broken boards. I could hear dozens of voices whispering from below now, overlapping so badly that I could only make out fragments. "Help me. Still alive. Don't leave us. Open the door." The copy looked at me again. "You know what your father saw down there?" Evelyn immediately said, "Don't answer." But I couldn't stop myself. "What did he see?" The copy smiled with my face. A room full of people who thought they could save someone they loved. The red glow brightened. Behind the thing wearing Daniel's face, I could now see movement deeper in the chamber. Rows of figures standing in complete silence, all facing the red door as if waiting for instructions. Then one of them stepped forward. A man in a dark work jacket, broad shoulders, gray at the temples. My breath caught. It was my father. Not the thing at the door. This was him. He looked older than I remembered, exhausted and frightened, but unmistakably real. He stopped several feet behind the creature and stared up at me. When he spoke, his voice was weak. "Ethan, don't come down here." The thing at the door went perfectly still. Slowly, its borrowed face began to melt away, becoming smooth and featureless again. My father took another step forward, chains clinking somewhere around his wrists. "It lies," he said. "It can wear our voices, but it can't make us choose." Tears blurred my vision before I even realized they were there. "Dad." He looked up at me with the same expression he'd had the day he taught me how to drive, trying to stay calm for my sake even though he was terrified himself. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should never have come back to this house." The featureless creature turned toward him. For the first time, I felt real hatred radiating from it. The chains around my father tightened violently, yanking him backward. He cried out and grabbed one of the stone pillars to stop himself from being dragged deeper into the chamber. Evelyn stepped toward the stairs. "Tom!" Her husband's figure reached for her from the darkness. "Evelyn, please." She stopped instantly, realizing it was trying the same trick on her again. The creature looked back up at me. Where its face should have been, a new set of features was forming. Not my father, not Daniel, mine, completely mine. And when it spoke, it used my own voice with absolute perfection. "If you want him back, come through the red door and take his place." The room fell silent. Daniel stared at me in horror. Evelyn shook her head desperately. And my father, still struggling against the chains in the red chamber, looked straight into my eyes and shouted the last thing I ever expected to hear from him. "Ethan, let me go!" My father's voice echoed through the chamber. "Ethan, let me go!" For a second, everything else disappeared. The copy, the whispers, the hands clawing through the hatch. I saw only him, chained to the stone pillar beneath the red glow, looking older and more broken than I'd ever imagined. And he was begging me not to save him. The creature wearing my face smiled. "He doesn't mean that." My father slammed his fist against the pillar. "I do." The chains tightened again, forcing him to his knees. Evelyn grabbed my arm before I could move. "Listen to him." "But he's alive." "No," she said, tears in her eyes. "He's trapped. There's a difference." The creature took one slow step through the red doorway, and the chamber seemed to bend around it. The rows of silent figures behind it all turned their heads toward me at the exact same time. "One step," it said in my voice. "That's all it takes." Daniel moved in front of the staircase. "You can't go down there." I looked at my father. "Tell me how to get you out." His face twisted with pain. "You don't. There has to be a way." "There isn't." He looked up at me desperately. "The door needs a replacement. That's why it keeps calling family members. Blood is easier for it to hold." The creature's smile widened. "He finally understands." My father kept talking quickly, as if he was running out of time. "When I came back to the house in 2003, I thought I could destroy the staircase. I made it all the way to the red door." He coughed hard, and I saw dark stains on the front of his jacket. It showed me my mother. She was crying and asking for help. I stepped through the doorway for just a second. His voice broke, and the door closed behind me. The chamber rumbled. The creature raised a hand, and the chains around my father began dragging him backward across the stone floor. "Dad!" He dug his fingers into the cracks between the stones, trying to resist. "Ethan, you have to listen carefully." The creature's face flickered between mine and my father's. "You don't have much time," my father shouted over it. "The house isn't the prison." The same words the older man had tried to say before the path closed. "What does that mean?" I yelled. "The red door is." Everything went still. Even the whispers stopped. My father looked directly at me. "The house is only a path that leads people here. If the door closes permanently, the staircase loses its connection." Hope flared in my chest. "How do I close it?" Evelyn answered before my father could. "With the key." We all looked at the brass key in her hand. She stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, "I was supposed to use it years ago." The creature's expression changed instantly. For the first time, it looked afraid. "Evelyn, don't." She stepped toward the staircase. Daniel grabbed her wrist. "If you lock the door while they're inside." "I know." Her voice trembled, but she kept moving. The little girl appeared at the bottom of the stairs, reaching upward. "Mom, please don't leave us." Evelyn stopped. I saw the conflict tearing through her face. The creature softened its voice. "You can have them back." Behind it, the man wearing her husband's face reached out his hand. The little girl smiled. For one heartbreaking second, it looked exactly like a real family waiting for her. Then my father shouted from the chamber, "They're not your family anymore." The illusion flickered. The little girl's smile stretched too wide. Her husband's face became smooth and featureless for a split second before snapping back into place. Evelyn's expression hardened. She started down the staircase. The creature moved instantly. Shadows erupted from the chamber and surged up the stairs toward her like a black wave. Daniel lunged after her, but the shadows struck him first, wrapping around his legs and dragging him toward the hatch. I grabbed his arms, fighting to pull him back. "Ethan!" he screamed. "Don't let go!" The shadows were impossibly strong. Below us, Evelyn reached the bottom of the stairs and ran toward the red door, the brass key clutched in both hands. The creature turned away from my father and stepped directly into her path. It was taller now, much taller. Its head nearly touched the top of the doorway. Evelyn raised the key. The creature smiled with my face one last time. "If you lock the door, everyone inside dies." Evelyn's hand shook. Then my father looked at her and said quietly, "We already did." Tears streamed down her face. She screamed and drove the brass key into the lock. The entire chamber exploded with sound. The red door began to swing shut. The creature's smile vanished, and as the door started closing, it looked straight at me with my own eyes and whispered, "If this door closes, I'm taking someone with me." The red door began to close. The sound was deafening. Iron grinding against stone, chains snapping tight, and a roar rising from the chamber that didn't sound human. The red glow flickered violently as the massive door moved inch by inch toward the frame. Evelyn stood directly beside it, both hands wrapped around the brass key. The creature lunged. Shadows exploded from the doorway and surged toward her like a tidal wave of black smoke. They wrapped around her arms, her waist, her throat, trying to drag her away from the lock. But she held on. My father was still chained to the pillar behind the creature. He looked at me, not with fear anymore, but with the expression of a man who had already made peace with what was about to happen. "Ethan!" he shouted. The creature turned toward me with my face twisted into something monstrous. "Choose!" At the same moment, the shadows around Daniel yanked him downward. I lost my grip on one of his arms, and he slammed against the edge of the broken hatch. "Ethan, don't let me go!" he screamed. I looked between him and the staircase, between the man I could still save and the father I had already lost. My father saw the hesitation in my eyes. Then he smiled. It was the same smile he'd given me when I left for college. Proud, sad, final. "Let me go, son." Evelyn screamed as the shadows tightened around her, but she forced the key to turn. Clunk. The lock engaged. The creature froze. For the first time, real terror crossed its face. The red door accelerated, slamming toward the frame with impossible force. The chamber began collapsing around it. Stone pillars cracked, chains tore free from the ceiling, and the rows of silent figures behind the creature started dissolving into clouds of black ash. The little girl appeared beside Evelyn one last time. Her face was no longer twisted. She looked like an ordinary child. "Mom," she whispered. "Thank you." Then she vanished. Evelyn broke down sobbing. The creature turned back toward me, desperate now. "If I go back in there, I'll never come out again." I tightened my grip on Daniel's arm. "Good," the creature screamed. A sound made from dozens of stolen voices layered together. My father's voice, Daniel's voice, my voice, all of them crying out at once. The door was only a few feet from closing. The creature made one final attempt. It reached toward me with a gray hand, and its face became perfectly mine again. "Ethan, please." For a split second, I saw every stolen face trapped beneath my own, pressing against the surface like people trapped behind thin ice. Then the red door slammed shut. The impact threw all of us off our feet. A shockwave tore through room 14. The walls cracked from floor to ceiling. The desk overturned, and the future room beyond the doorway shattered like glass, revealing only darkness before collapsing completely. The shadows holding Daniel vanished instantly. I pulled him away from the hatch as the stone staircase below began to crumble. Dust and chunks of rock poured upward, and the red glow disappeared beneath a cloud of debris. Evelyn collapsed on the stairs, still clutching the brass key. The house started shaking, not violently, more like a long, deep sigh. Then the floor beneath the hatch gave way completely, and the staircase disappeared into darkness. A moment later, the entire opening sealed itself with a solid slab of stone. Silence. No whispers, no footsteps, no voices, just the sound of our breathing. Daniel stared at the place where the staircase had been. "It's gone." Evelyn looked down at the key in her hand. The brass had turned dull and gray, as if it had aged 100 years in a few seconds. Tears were still running down her face. "Tom's gone," she whispered. I looked at the sealed stone floor. My father was gone too. The weight of that hit me all at once, and I had to sit down before my legs gave out. Evelyn moved beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. "He saved you." I swallowed hard. "I couldn't save him. You were never supposed to." We stayed there for a long time, surrounded by the ruins of room 14. Eventually, the first real sunlight began to creep through the cracks in the walls. The room was changing. The spotless gray walls were fading, becoming old plaster again. The new carpet rotted away before our eyes, turning into warped floorboards covered in dust. Room 14 was disappearing. By the time we made it downstairs, it was gone completely. The second floor hallway ended in a blank wall where the locked door had been. No frame, no seam, nothing. Outside, the neighborhood looked normal for the first time since I'd arrived. Birds were singing. Cars passed in the distance. The world had started moving again. Evelyn stood on the porch and looked back at the house. "It'll be abandoned after this," she said quietly. "Without the door, it's just a house." Daniel laughed weakly. "A house I'm never stepping inside again." I looked at the front windows. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing on the second floor watching us. My heart stopped. Then the figure disappeared. Probably a reflection. Probably. Evelyn handed me the brass key. I stared at it. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Keep it," she said. "If the door ever starts opening again, you'll know before anyone else." I wanted to throw it into the woods, into a river, into the ocean. Instead, I slipped it into my pocket. 3 days later, I put the house back on the market. I didn't mention the hidden room, or the staircase, or the red door. Some things shouldn't be written into official records. But the night before the listing went live, I woke up at exactly 3:14 a.m. The brass key was lying on my nightstand. I was certain I had left it locked in a drawer, and beneath it was a single sheet of paper I had never seen before. In my father's handwriting, it said, "You did the right thing. If anyone ever offers to buy the house without seeing it first, do not sell it to them." At the bottom of the page, there was one final line. "Some doors don't stay closed." I still own the house, and every few months I drive past it just to make sure the second floor wall is still there. So far, it is. But last week, after a heavy rain, I noticed something that made me stop the car. A single set of fresh footprints led across the muddy front yard, straight to the side of the house where the locked room used to be. And just like the first footprints I ever found, they went in, but they never came back out.